Sabrina Carpenter is basically the sexy red of the suburbs, right? Both of them are portraying this sort of salacious 304 behavior. They're pushing and perpetuating this in-betweenish message where they have this almost fun, light, very bright sort of branding that attracts kids, but the messaging is actually extremely adult-centered content, yet the kids are still getting access to these individuals and are still being enticed. Yeah, that same sort of thing is what I see in a Sabrina Carpenter. And I know I've spoken on SEXYYRED and I've given her her day in court, trust me, but I'm not going to make this just a race thing because some folks think, oh, you just picking on black folks. No, I got smoke for everybody who is pushing this nonsense within the culture, to our kiddos, most specifically to the kiddos, and even the adults out there. You know, I believe we can do better for ourselves. I believe that we can essentially take away some of these elements of our culture that have been normalized, which are creating more problems than they are solutions, creating for broken households, creating for, young men and young women who go out and don't know how to have relationships and therefore have these toxic sort of get-togethers, liaisons, if you may. So I stand for that. I believe that we can make a difference. So that being said, what brought this up in the first place? Why would I call Sabrina Carpenter the SEXYYRED? Because I don't listen to Sabrina's music. I really could give less of a damn. I know some brothers out there are infatuated with her. And I'm all for it. Like, if that's what you into, that's what you into. You understand me? I'm somebody who's in support of all relationships. I don't give a damn what the person may look like. If they look like the opposite of what you are, you dark skinned, she's light Sabrina white. You understand me? If that's who loves you and you love them and y'all can build something healthy, that's a fantastic thing. However, what brought all of this up to consciousness was this image right here. I might have to blur out a little bit of it, even though it's, I guess, allowed for public consumption. But this was what did it for me at first. Now, when I saw this image, it's also the fact that SEXYYRED literally shared this image. But when I first saw this image, I thought to myself, now, isn't this the chick who's being pushed to the young girls? And I know we like to make these excuses. Well, she's not saying that her music is for kids and the parents should know, and the parents should know. And I get it that, the parents are supposed to be the first line of defense and the last line of defense. But we can't sit here and pretend as if this imagery is not used to draw in kids. The one time I saw her perform, it must have been like an MTV or something award show. And she was making out with, 2-3 aliens or whatever the hell it was going on up there. And I'm thinking to myself, that entire setting is made for little kids. Like it looks like the set of Coco Melon or something like that, right? Miss Rachel might have been on that scene, but instead it was a half-dressed Sabrina Carpenter. Now, again, if this was just Sabrina in her room doing her thing, I would have absolutely no problem with it. Do you, boo-boo, put your stuff on your IG or whatever. But this is something that is being pushed to the public. This is something that is actively being promoted with an agenda, with a reason. And the reason is to sexualize our young girls and to normalize those behaviors. OF used to be something that we believed would not really catch on. Well, I can't say that. I believed that it wouldn't catch on in the way that it did in a mainstream way. I believe that what would happen is it would stay on the fringes because sometimes I can be a little naive. It's, I guess, my toxic trait is to believe that, everybody really has the best intentions and we're all trying our best and we really want, to essentially improve ourselves. No, there's some folks out there who want to see everything around them destroyed, and they would, sell their brother out for a shekel, right? Sell their brother out for a bag of silver. So, at first I thought OF was just going to be this passing fad for the mainstream to get over it. Unfortunately, it was the complete opposite. This thing became larger and larger in the mainstream, more accepted to the point where mothers are, giving up the sanctity of motherhood to become OF quote unquote models or digital 304s, digital streetwalkers. There's a story I'm about to get into of a woman who was a pastor of a church. And I know that nobody is beyond another or above another when it comes to virtue, etc. And a lot of these pastors have come out to be freaks themselves. But you are a pastor who is now making a decision that it is more important for you to have, this false level of validation and, a couple of shekels as opposed to living for God or for your God. So that was just mind blowing to me. But anyway, it's crazy because I already had this subject in mind about Sabrina. And it just seems sometimes, when I just allow a message to formulate in my head, because I don't do any written scripts for anything. I just off the top, right? But as I was letting this formulate, maybe a few weeks back, I see it on my list of subjects that I want to get into. And all of a sudden I come across this video on X. So I'm going to go ahead and cue this up and then break this down at a subatomic molecular level. So let's get into it. The whole image is made for little girls. Now, as y'all can see there, she's either, given a regular old motorboat, or she is involving herself in some, how do I put this? In some consumption of the tacos. We'll just put it that way, right? For sensitive souls and sensitive ears' sake. She is basically demonstrating the eating of the cookie crumbling, if you catch what I'm throwing, to a very young audience. Listen to the people screaming in the back. Now, some people would listen to me and say, man, you are old man. Like, there's something wrong with you. Oh, you ain't no man. What's wrong? See, here's the thing. At the age of 21, I made the decision to decouple myself, to essentially wean myself off of corn. Absolutely, 100% to get off of it. And it's one of the, if not the best decision I ever made for myself, as well as me in relationship to, my relationships, etc. It's one of the best decisions I made, even career-wise. I mean, the fact that I run circles around anybody who's a gooner, you are not catching up. If you're gooning, if you're, still smoking weed or whatever, I promise you, you will never catch up. If you are competing, you will never. It is impossible for you to do so. But I cleansed myself of that. I made a conscious decision that this is ruining my life, and it will continue to do exactly that. And the men who don't deal with that, and even the women who don't deal with that, it becomes a thorn in your side. It becomes something that consumes you so completely that you're no longer living, but instead that addiction is living for you. And so this right here is nothing more than the pushing of that very same agenda. It's the pushing of the very same agenda. It's not just about grown folks. It's about getting you at the earliest and youngest stages possible. That's why they put it in the glitz and the glamour. If it was for adults, they would put it in adult spaces. There would be, a very clear distinction, right? When you see some of these individuals, like, let's say, well, I'm going to put it in the context of a different format. The 50 Shades of Grey was not marketed to young girls. Now, maybe some picked up copies, unfortunately, whatever it was, but it was marketed towards grown women. The storyline, literally the color schematics, etc., was marketed towards grown women. Sabrina Carpenter is being sold to young girls in the same way SEXYYRED is being sold to young girls. And I did a story not too long ago, maybe a week or two ago, where these little girls, I'm talking about little as in 3-4 years old, are in a room dancing to SEXYYRED. She has a song called Rich Baby Daddy, talking about hands on your knees, shake that for Drake, now shake that for me, let that cookie breathe. Those are the type of lyrics that these young girls are singing along to, 3-4 years old. And yes, it is the parents' responsibility. Yes, it is the parents who have failed them. It is the ghetto culture that has failed them. But now there is a mass effort, a concerted effort to have the minds of our young boys and our young girls. Because once you have them as a child, as the old quote goes, give me a child from the age of 0 to 7 and I will give you the man, or I will give you the woman. I will condition them into who they will be for the rest of their life. I will traumatize them. I will normalize this behavior so that when somebody touches them inappropriately, whatever it may be, now that's already normalized. It's already in their psyche. They're not questioning it because you've put so much of this imagery in front of them. You have made it not just accessible, but you've made it acceptable. And that right there is my issue. That's the reason why I continue to fight this fight. I see dysfunction and degeneracy anywhere, I call it out. And I say that there is a personal responsibility that has to be taken around these things. For us as grown folk, we make our decisions Point blank. I know it's difficult. I know we have programming, we have conditioning, we have traumas that we're working through, etc. But we still get to make these conscious choices, whereas the kids are subject. The kids are subject to how the parents are moving. The kids are subject to what the parents are letting them be exposed to. Some parents are too afraid. They want to be a child's friend instead of being a parent. They're too afraid to step in between the gaps and say, no, you're not going to consume that. You're not going to watch that. My folks may have been a lot of things, but one thing they were not was standoffish when it came to those types of things. They might have been, a little more emotionally different because they come from a different age and era, but they definitely made sure that I was not going to be exposed to certain stuff if they could help it. If I found it somewhere else, then, unfortunately, that may have been the case with some things, but in their household, that was not going to be the norm. And so for me as a grown man, I still had those seeds planted. And when I grew into maturity, I realized that these sorts of messages that are sold to us as fun, sold to us as just, we're just having a good time, etc., is actually a concerted effort to have your mind be wired for this type of stuff. As men, we are wired to consistently be dogs, to consistently be looking at the next piece of behind, the next parrot, we're going through life looking like this, and we have to make a concerted effort. I made a decision at 21 years old to say, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to go through life seeing women as less than human, seeing them as nothing more than the flesh bodies, basically. And I don't want that for myself in the same way I wouldn't for, my daughter to be or my nieces. I wouldn't want that for my nephew. I wouldn't want that for, frankly, anybody. But the first ones I'm going to look out for are the young ones. And they're the ones who are not being protected when you have people like this that are glorified. It's fake smile, fake caricature, make it look fun, make it look like a good time. It's the same thing going on with the OF campaign. It's the exact same thing. Make it look appetizing, make it look appealing, make it look like something that, you're enticed into as a young woman. They're looking at these OF girls thinking, look at all the money they're making. Look how much fun they're having. Look how much attention they're getting. Oh my God, like they are it. That's her right there. And so they start to mimic those behaviors. And if there's no father in the household who is active and really a presence, and if the mother is not somebody who is functional, emotionally and mentally stable, forget about it. They stand no chance and will have to work through it for the rest of their lives. So yeah, Sabrina Carpenter SEXYYRED may have more vile and disgusting lyrics outright, but the personas are the very same thing. It's like an overt and a covert dress up for these people. So with Sabrina, there's the covert, right? It's more subtle. It's the innuendo within the music. When it comes to somebody like SEXYYRED, it's just in your face. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I believe that the slow sedative or the slow form of poison can be far worse because you're more likely to continue to drink it and think nothing of it. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. But I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 3, 6, 5, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.